Good morning. Welcome to Saturday's Early Morning Intuitive Guidance. Yes, I'm late. I forgot to set my alarm. Here we are. Happy Saturday. We'll see who all pops in. We'll see who all is still scrolling on Facebook and how many of you have said, "Oh, to heck with it, I'm getting on with my day." So, I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum. Here was some words of wisdom to get our day off to a good start. And we have the Allowing Prayers deck, which I always enjoy because it asks such thought-provoking questions, gives us something to think about and chew on during the course of the day. And I also love the little bird that's on there, just hanging out. So yesterday the birds were really loud. Good morning, Barb. You're the first one popping on today. Glad to have you here. The birds were very loud yesterday between the geese who were circling and prepping to head south and little songbirds that hang out in the trees and the bushes. It was quite a cacophony. So, yeah. Well, let us start with some tapping just to kind of get our grounding and settle into right here and right now. You can pick a spot to tap. I usually choose this one. Good morning, Nancy. Welcome. Glad you are here. Nice deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Good morning, good morning. I forgot to set my alarm. So here we are. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And I went out for fish with a friend last night and she couldn't eat until after 6, so that was getting late by the time we got done yakking. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Allowing yourself to settle into right here, right now. Wiggling a little bit, get some of the kinks out. See how much grinding there is in your neck today. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So as I said, we have an Allowing Prayers card, 57 invitations to spark a conversation with your soul. And this one is called Allow Expression. Allow expression. So there's 2 questions here, and if someone wouldn't mind putting them in the feed, that would be fabulous. Our first question is, and I'm noting the first word. Instead of it saying, have you been, it's how have you been? Making the assumption that indeed we are doing this. So, how have you been holding back from fully expressing your true self? How have you been holding back from fully expressing your true self? Think about that for a moment. And there's a difference. In my mind, there's a difference between choosing not to say something because you sense it's either not going to result in anything useful or the person isn't in a position to hear anything you have to share, and editing so as not to cause a fight, stir the pot, rock the boat, all the expressions we have that you get the drift. So, and sometimes it's kind of hard to tell the difference, but I think if there's ever that feeling of fear of saying something, that lets you know there's more going on there than just this person isn't open to hearing what I have to say. How have you been holding back from fully expressing your true self? Good morning, Gwen. Glad you are here. We have a card from the Allowing Prayers deck today, and it has 2 questions. And first one, well, it's the card itself, allowing expression. You do that with your siblings. Yep. Well, and again, we have holidays approaching, and that can be a time that's fraught with some difficulty. And if you want to revisit, Morgan, our amazing virtual assistant, is going to gather some of the videos that we've done for the Common Ground Conversation podcast and put them all in a chunk. So those of you who are in the position of how do I navigate the holidays with these people can go back and look at them. Thank you, Gwen, for posting that. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. And refresh yourself a bit on how do I not take the bait? And that's a good way to determine whether you're making a choice because there's no point, the person isn't going to hear you anyway, and that avoidance of stirring the pot. Sometimes it can be as simple as saying, well, I view it a little differently than that, but it is Thanksgiving, so let's just focus on being together and enjoying each other's company, etc. So you set a boundary. That doesn't mean the person won't continue to stir the pot, because some people just love to do that. But you can head a different direction anyway. Have a conversation with the person on the other side of you, etc. There's options. So our first question for allowing expression is, how have you been holding back from expressing your true self? Second question is, what might change if you used your voice in service of yourself? And I'm going to add in there, and others. What might change if you used your voice in service of yourself and others? And we just had a fabulous conversation about that yesterday. There are 3 main housing groups in our area, and all do something slightly different. One of them's more focused on the higher order stuff. How do we find funding for projects for housing? How do we bring together all of these groups that are doing their slightly different things? So it's kind of an overseer sort of a group. And then there's the group that's very focused on the people who have nothing or next to nothing. So people who are already unhoused or are at great risk for becoming unhoused. And there's a group that focuses in that realm. And then there's another group that's focusing on, let me see, more the kind of spreading the potential support up the ladder a bit. So we all got together yesterday and had a conversation about how can we work together. Because if we bring our resources together, we can probably do much more than any one of these groups can do on its own. And I see this as, what do I call it? A harbinger of what's to come. It is going to be an era of many groups coming together, even disparate groups. Well, so I'll just make one up. Well, I deal with solar. Well, I deal with water justice. Well, I deal with, Native Americans' treaty rights. I deal with, but there's still overlap. And in that overlap space, they can come together and use their resources together and accomplish much more. So that was pretty cool. What might change if you used your voice in service of yourself and others? So we were talking about how much more range our voice will have when these 3 groups plus some other groups that are doing very specific kinds of work come together. When the Capitol Rotunda is filled with a couple hundred people as opposed to 30 people, that's a pretty loud voice. So, allowing expression. So let's take a breath. Let it go. Thank you, Gwen, for putting the other one in there. I appreciate it. Just tune into yourself. Where have you been holding back? Where have you not been speaking your truth forthrightly? And a la taking the war out of our words. So let me just grab our book here. Sharon Ellison, Taking the War Out of Our Words, The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication. Maybe this would be a great time for some review. Maybe we need to dig out our book again. Maybe we do it like we do with Outrageous Openness. Hold it in our hands. Okay, Spirit, help me open to a page that has something useful for me. Open it up and see what's there. Just a reminder that helps us refresh that information, because it's so easy for us to fall back into the worn groove of what we've always done. Even when we've done 21 days of something, which is what the research suggests it needs for something to become habit. Look at our invoking divine right timing and divine right order. Now that we've moved from doing it every day together, how many of you continue to refresh yourselves, and practice. I know I've had some times where it's like, wow, I could have used that then. That would have been helpful then. That's one of the reasons I leave it sit on my desk all the time, because then it's in my face and I am refreshing probably more often than I would if I was just doing things from memory. So again, the value of Post-it notes. Put some stuff on Post-it notes, stick them where you're going to see them, and move on. So perhaps there's a circumstance that you have looming that you would like some assistance with in terms of, how do I manage this? Might be a holiday thing, might be a work thing, might be a partner thing, might be whatever. If you want to put it in the feed, we can come up with some ways to speak your truth about that. Because oftentimes when it's a circumstance that's fraught with emotion, it can be hard to see potential options. I was working with someone yesterday where all she could see was black and white. And when I started pointing out grays and colors and plaids and stripes and all the things, she was like, why didn't I think of that? Because you had the blinders on, and the blinders were that message of there's only this or that. And why do we do that? Because there's a comfort in believing there's only this or that. Our little human minds, as powerful as they are, enjoy there only being two options. I only have to consider two things. Yeah, it limits the hell out of me, but I only have to consider two things. When we start adding in all the plaids and stripes and paisleys, things get more difficult in a way, but also much more expansive. Much more expansive. Because if there's this, and this, there's probably also that. And that may be the one that once you hit upon it, you go, oh, this'll work. This one will work. So practicing not unwittingly limiting ourselves simply because it's more comfortable. So also want to do a quick plug again for my Black Friday specials. We're fast approaching the end of that offer. So the basic gist behind it is I have a 3-session coaching package and an 8-session coaching package. The 3-session coaching package is $100 $100 discounted. 100% discounted. That'd be great. $100 discounted until midnight on Black Friday, and the 8-session package is $500 discounted until midnight on Friday. That doesn't mean you have to use them by midnight on that Friday, Black Friday. It means you purchase them by then and you can use them at your leisure. So if you're interested, on my Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum Empowerment Coaching Facebook page, it's pinned to the top so that you can find it easily and see what the details are. And if you have any questions on it, just give me a holler and I'll give you the scoop. So now we are off to an awesome day. I'm going to have coffee with my son's girlfriend's mom, and I'm looking forward. Good morning, Beth. Glad you're here. We're just about done, but the replay will be up in short order. What are you doing today that's going to be fun? Put it in the feed. I'd love to see. And hopefully that stirs us to have a little more fun. We need fun. Good morning, Mary. We are just done. Thank you for the coffee. I appreciate it. I'll put the replay up, and you guys can find out about Allow Expression. Remember, we're capable of far more than we think we are. Bye-bye.